Hey, what the hell? Why you hanging on the roof all by yourself? I have an open invitation, but you're telling me go get lost. I don't wanna see your face. Yeah, what the hell? So why don't we stay out till the morning light? Cause two wrongs can make a right. We're just doing what we feeling right now. Some Chardonnay, we camp in the parking lot. Leave traces of plastic cups. We're just doing what we feeling right now. So what the hell? Why you hanging on the roof all by yourself? Always waiting for the one, but I got news for you. I'm the best that you can get, so what the hell? Yeah, what the hell? So what the hell? So what the hell? What are you waiting for now? And what the hell? it's cold and losing my control. Your light is gone and lonely darkness fill my soul. I wish that you could save me from my isolation. It's way too complicated. Let's stop this conversation. Let's stop this conversation. We got no relation. Darkness fill my soul. I wish that you could save me from my isolation. It's way too complicated. Let's stop this conversation. Let's stop this conversation. We got no relation.
Hello to everyone tuning in on the YouTube stream. You can now hear me. Apologies, microphone, my own headset. I hadn't got synced up, but everyone can hear me now. So just to run a recap of what I was saying, it is the 6th round of the Daytona Milton Keynes Super Championship, penultimate round of the season. And in the lightweight class, Matthew Glazebrook is leading over Luke Power. All he has to do is beat Luke Power, and he will take the lightweight crown with 1 round to go. Meanwhile, in the heavyweight class, Aidan Miller and Hamish Eason are leading the championship, but it is Charlie Fenton who is the effective championship leader once drop scores are taken into effect. Now, this is where things get spicy. The D-Max lightweight class. James Bettison is currently leading over Jamie Tyler Gooden with just 2 points separating them. However, with that being said, Jamie Tyler Gooden's drop score is currently 1 point less than James Bettison, which effectively means there is only 1 point separating the pair of them heading into this round. You can't count out the likes of Dom Balasaitis and Ethan Pritchard, who are a further... what is that, who are a further 50 or so points behind, but they have missed the round. So if they were able to take a win, all of a sudden the gap between the likes of Dom Balasaitis and Ethan Pritchard to James Bettison and Jamie Tyler Gooden would be less than 5 points heading into the last round of the season. So it would be very, very close indeed. In the D-Max heavyweight class, and this is one of the closest championship, I think this is the closest title battle we have, even closer than that in the D-Max lightweight class, because at the sharp end, James Brown is leading the championship by 2 points over Kuba Wozniak. But the caveat is Kuba Wozniak's drop score is only 43 points, whereas for James Brown it is 47, which essentially means that currently Kuba Wozniak is actually leading the championship by 2 points. But again, it comes to that same thing we were mentioning before, the fact that Kuba cannot have a bad result. If he does, it essentially gives James Brown one hand on the trophy. Ian Riley is a further 9 points back in the championship. He also has a very handy drop score of 44 points, which means that he is still within championship contention. Justin Elliott as well, 184 points, didn't attend one of the rounds, so he's got a lot of points he can add to his tally. And that is our 4 categories. Then we've also got a few drivers making their return to the championship, a few drivers making their debut showing in the Super Champs, which will, I'm sure, undoubtedly add a little bit of a ruckus to the mix. And some of the big names that I am seeing: Nathan James, former D-Max lightweight championship, returning to the D-Max class, and he is definitely going to be putting a little spanner in the works for either James Bettison or Jamie Tyler Gooden. And maybe if the likes of Dom Balasaitis or Ethan Pritchard could be taking the win, having someone like Nathan James between themselves and the leading 2 in the championship could bring them back into effect. Could bring them back into the hunt. Who else do we have? James King was out in the practice session earlier on today and was looking very, very quick as well. So he's going to be another driver to keep our eyes out for. Who else do we have? Well, I've got Adam Cluck, who I haven't seen before. Dylan Jenkins, Harley Turner, Keen Brady. So all new drivers that we get to see out on circuit. Asher Chivers will be making his debut in the D-Max category. Same for Toby Ward, who will be out in the 116 kart. Ashley Mason King, we saw actually in the last round of the Super Champs, racing in the heavyweight class. Callum Poulter also returning into the lightweight class. He's had 1 or 2 rounds, I believe, this season. Just the 1 round where he was able to finish second. We'll see whether he can go one better. I haven't seen Adam Barris's name, because usually when we see Callum Poulter out, Adam Barris is here as well. But not this time around, unless I am missing a name. So for Callum Poulter, chance for him to take his first win of the season and maybe pose somewhat of an issue for Matthew Glazebrook and Luke Power. And let's not forget, Luke Power as well took his first and only win of the season in that last round of the Saudi Lightweight Championship. Finding a bit of form is Luke Power, Can he carry that form into these final 2 rounds of the season? Also need to give a shout out to the likes of Adam Green, Harry Asher. They've both been improving over the season. They're slowly kind of bridging the pace deficit between themselves and Matthew Glazebrook and Luke Power. And, well, for Adam Green, he's was able to get his first podium of the season last time around, taking 47 points. Currently 10 points behind Harry Asher, but will be gaining 3 points on Harry when the drop scores come into effect. So only 7 points between them heading into the final 2 rounds of the championship. It is a D30 today, so for different rounds of the season, we run with different race lengths. So for this time round, it is just going to be a 30-minute race. For the final round of the championship, that's where things get fun, because we have heats, which heats are always awesome because it just means more racing out on circuit. You get 2 heats, then a final. The heats are random grid, so you'll have 1 heat where you start towards the front, 1 heat where you start towards the back, and your average finishing position determines where you will be starting for the final. I think maybe the finals might be an opportunity for me to return into the car and add some extra drama out on circuit. I say that, but I do prefer it up here in the commentary box. It's cooler at the very least, and it is very hot today. I believe we are back into a heat wave, or so I've been told. I don't really look at the news or the weather, but people telling me, oh, we've got a heat wave coming. I'm like, great, get the barbecue out. That being said, I don't know about you guys out there on circuit or tuning in. Has anyone had a barbecue yet this year? Has anyone made the most of the weather? But I think we are pretty much all set. I think all of the karts have been fueled up now, so we should be getting drivers into their karts and out on to circuit shortly. And as I say that, I can see drivers starting to make their way into pit lane. Seeing Don Balasatis and Jamie Tyler-Gooden finding their karts. Luke Power starting towards the front end of the field for his practice session. Qualifying, though, is a very fun affair. It is a super pole format, and what that effectively means is the drivers have 1 flying lap. They go out for their out lap, flying lap, and then they come straight into the pits. And what it means is that we get some unpredictable results, let's say. It means that certain drivers could be higher up than they otherwise would be, or maybe further down the field, because you have to push. And here at Daytona Milton Keynes, there are a lot of corners where you have to absolutely send it. And either you gain a 10th or 2, or you lose half a second. And it really rewards those drivers who are able to consistently push at the very limit. Another driver I've forgotten to mention is Lee Whitney. Lee Whitney returning in for the D-Max heavyweight class. Very, very quick driver and former D-Max heavyweight champion as well is Lee. We'll see how he can do against the likes of Cooper Wozniak and James Brown, and indeed Ian Riley as well. I saw Ian Riley out in a practice session earlier today, just making sure he was still up to scratch, getting some extra practice in before the race today. So, a quick announcement then from race control. If any drivers have not weighed in yet, so any drivers who have not weighed in yet, please can you make your way over to the scales and get yourselves weighed in. Otherwise, you might be finding yourselves in the unfortunate position of being underweight come the end of the race. So please make sure you are weighed in. But I think I can see pretty much all of our drivers into their karts now. Just waiting for our last few. I'm seeing Conor McNamara, James Brown, I believe Aidan Miller, and of course Barry Morris. So also, apologies for the stream. Haven't quite been able to get the live timings working. So all that we have is the camera feed. I do have the timings working on my phone, so it doesn't affect me commentary-wise, but it does mean that it's slightly easier to, or slightly harder to follow the action over on the YouTube stream. As we can see our karts on the exit of pit lane. Well, the end of pit lane is probably the more appropriate term for it. Ethan Pritchard at the front of the D-Max train of karts. Although, as I say that, we've got two trains of karts. And just behind him, I believe, is Mr. Joe Fletcher, making the step up from the Junior Sprint League last season. I believe he finished second. Was it third? It was one of the two. It was Harry Asher who won the Junior Sprint League, if I'm not mistaken. And Harry racing in the Sodi category for today, and for the majority, for the entirety of the season, running third in the championship. Just 9 points shy of Luke Power and 15 points shy of Matthew Glazebrook. Matthew Glazebrook has had an absolutely fantastic season so far, with 3 race wins, 4 fastest laps, and just 1 finish outside of the top 2. And I do believe we have the green light. So once everything, and by everything I mean once the track is ready, our marshals are in position, we will be going green on the exit of pit lane, firing up our D-Maxes to lead our fleet of 37 karts out onto circuit. That is one of the biggest grids we have had for the Daytona Milton Keynes Super Champs, which hopefully means that we're in for some really, really good racing today. And maybe as well some new winners as well. Again, in the Saudi lightweight class, we've only had 2 winners this season. Oh, sorry, 3 winners. Matthew Glazebrook, Adam Barris, and Luke Power. In the Saudi heavyweight class, we have only had 2 winners, Charlie Fenton and Barry Morris. Well, Barry Morris isn't racing in the Saudi class today. Charlie Fenton, though, is racing in the heavyweight class. We'll see whether he can make it 5 wins in a row. In the D-Max lightweight class, James Pedersen has been able to pick up 2 wins. 2 wins also for Jamie Tyler Gooden. 1 win for Dom Balasaitis. And who has the final win? Actually, all of the wins are separated amongst them. We've had 5 rounds so far this season. D-Max heavyweight class, James Brown yet to win a race. Cooper Wozniak with 2 race wins. Ian Riley with 1 race win. Josh Davis with another race win. And the final race win was for Lee Schnitzler, who is not racing today. And with that, our engines for the D-Maxes have been fired up, and our drivers are starting to make their way towards the end of pit lane. I'm seeing Conor McNamara second in that queue of karts, with Justin Elliott and Nathan James behind, and then is Daniel Crawley and Dom Balasaitis, followed by Lee Whitney, James Pedersen, Jamie Tyler Gooden, Ian Riley, and Ethan Pritchard. And that second queue goes out, spearheaded by Ethan Pritchard and then Joe Fletcher. And already Ethan Pritchard is trying to find a way through on Ian Riley, heading into turn 4. It is practice, so a chance to practice racing lines, just make sure everyone is up to speed, and of course, practicing some of those really cool overtaking moves. Here at Daytona Milton Keynes, not a huge amount of places to overtake, particularly in the Saudi class. Your main overtaking points are, well, getting a good run out of turn 8 and then the drag all the way up the hill through the long left hand of turn 9 and then into one of the heaviest braking zones on the circuit alongside turn 8, which is turn 10, which we're seeing our karts filtering into now, being led by Conor McNamara and Nathan James. Other option, final corner. Sending it up the inside. It's a very wide entry into that final corner, and it's very easy to shove one up the inside of another driver. My favourite overtaking spot, though, is turn 4. Again, wide entry into turn 4. Very easy to stuff one up the inside of the driver you are battling with. But those are really the 3 overtaking zones on the circuit. Sometimes I see drivers getting a good run coming out of turn 5 and maybe having a go into turn 6, but that's usually requires a driver in front to make a mistake in a bet. So it's really those 3 overtaking spots we're looking at. Turn 1, flat in both the D-Maxes and the Saudi karts. Turn 9, well, it's an easy flat in the Saudis. In the D-Maxes, it is flat, but you do need to have a little flick of the kart just to get the rear end out, and then it is flat from there on out. So with that, I think our first few laps will be starting to come in onto the timing screens. Who is currently topping the times then? As we see the likes of Nathan James and Conor McNamara over the line. So Nathan James has made his way to the front end of this train of karts. Dom Balasaitis trying to follow him through. He currently has Justin Elliott and Conor McNamara to navigate through. It is James Pedersen, though, at the top of the standings with a 1:16.3, sorry, a 1:08.9, and then it's a 109.8 for Dom Balasatis. James Brown jumping up into second with a 109.3, but he is Barry Morris at the top of the times with a 108.7 for now. So Barry Morris made his debut appearance in the D-Max category, but was racing in the heavyweight class. Today, racing in the lightweights and looking to pose a challenge and a bit of extra drama maybe for our D-Max lightweight championship protagonists of James Pedersen and Jamie Tylee Gooden to have to deal with. And with both Barry Morris and Nathan James present, I think we're going to be in for a really, really good race. Maybe a six-way battle for the race win even. Seeing Dom Balasatis and Ethan Pritchard potentially up there as well in the championship fight. James Pedersen improves once again, a 107.0. And he is half a second clear of Nathan James. So it is currently Bettison from James, from Pritchard, and then Tylee Gooden making up the top four. Then it's Lee Whitney in P5, the quickest of the heavyweights, followed by Ian Riley, the pair of them in the 108.0s. Then it's 7/10 down to Barry Morris on that 108.7, and then it's Dom Balasatis, Cooper Wozniak, Conor McNamara. Meanwhile, in the Sodi category, Callum Poulter has set the quickest time with a 117.6. Then it's Charlie Fenton with a 118.4, followed by the anonymous Kart 18 of a 118.459. Then it's Luke Power with a 119.7, and Dylan Jenkins, who has just been pipped for position by Aidan Miller in the number 5 kart. So the number 18 kart is James King out on circuit. Quick driver is James King, and I believe racing in the heavyweight class as well, if I'm not mistaken. So we have less than 10 minutes remaining of our practice session. And after that, we'll be bringing all of the karts into the pit lane before sending out our D-Maxes for their Super Pole session, and then our Sodis for their Super Pole. After both Super Pole sessions are done, we will then be bringing all the karts into the pit lane before grilling them up out on circuit and having a rolling start for both categories. Kuba Wozniak is at the top of the times with a 106.9. Just a 10th clear of James Pedersen and Barry Morris. So Barry Morris very, very quick currently in the D-Maxes. And I think we are in for a really, really special race in the D-Max lightweight and indeed the D-Max heavyweight class. But I think particularly that D-Max lightweight class is going to be absolute fire today. Especially with a championship very, very tightly balanced. As Jamie Tylee Gooden had come into the pit lane, and our tester, Will Stevenson, is jumping into the kart to have a quick play around. Currently, Jamie Tylee Gooden running P8, 8/10 off the pace set by Kuba Wozniak. So Jamie Tylee Gooden clearly thinks there's a bit of time in that kart, and has given it to the kart tester to have a feel of it and decide whether he gets a fresh kart for the rest of the race, or whether he'll have to jump back into that 107 kart. So Luke Power currently at the top of the standings for our Sodi category. Very, very quick pace then from Luke Power. A 117.5. Same for Callum Poulter, 117.5. Matthew Glazebrook, 117.6. So we're looking at a very fun battle in our Sodi lightweight category as well, with just a couple of tenths separating those top 3 drivers. Adam Green is a further 3.5 tenths back. Then we've got Aidan Miller, who is currently pipping Charlie Fenton in the heavyweight class by just under a tenth of a second. And then comes James King also in that Saudi heavyweight category. So your top 3 in both the lightweight Saudis and the heavyweight Saudis separated by a tenth of a second. We've also then got Kart 7 of Harley Turner, who is a further couple of tenths back, but I'm not sure if Harley is in the heavyweight or the lightweight category. Harry Asher improving with a 118.1, half a tenth shy of Adam Green. That's Kuba Wozniak and James Brown are into the pit lane. So this is what we see from quite a few drivers. They'll come into the pit lane very early so that they can be at the front of the queue for Super Pole. Otherwise, they sometimes run the risk of catching some traffic. And considering it's Super Pole and you only get one hot lap, you don't want to be catching traffic. And it's better just to sacrifice a bit of time in practice just to ensure you're at the very front of the train. And, well, it's your D-Max Heavyweight Championship first position and second position who are at the very front. Still James Pedersen at the sharp end of the field of 105.7, 3 tenths clear of Nathan James. And then it's Ian Riley who is in third. He's put in an absolute stonker of a lap time of 106.4. Then it's Ethan Pritchard, Dom Balasaitis, Kuba Wozniak with a 106.9, Barry Morris with a 107.0. Then comes Lee Whitney, Daniel Crawley, Joseph Fletcher down in P12, Jamie Tyler Gooden all the way down in P15 currently. So he's going to be desperately hoping that he gets a new kart for the rest of the race. So he gives us a nice little wave. New boots as well, I've been told, for Jamie Tyler Gooden. So the checkered flag is about to go out. James Pedersen still at the top of the times with that 105.7, the only driver to make it into the 105s. Meanwhile, in the Saudi category, 106.3 for Callum Poulter, able to improve by a small amount. Also improvements for Luke Power and Matthew Glazebrook. But Luke Power, 106.5. Matthew Glazebrook, nearly a second down on the pair of them. So Callum Poulter and Luke Power are absolutely flying. Now, this could be fantastic news for Luke Power if he can beat Callum Poulter. If he doesn't beat Callum Poulter, then he'll be wishing that Callum wasn't here. And if he does win and can get Callum between himself and his championship rival of Matthew Glazebrook, that would be absolutely huge for him. James King, Charlie Fenton, Adam Green, Aidan Miller, Harry Asher, all separated by 2 tenths of a second. So incredibly close in our Saudi category as well. And our kart tester, Will Stevenson, has taken Jamie Tyler Gooden's kart, and has taken it into the mechanics bay. So Jamie should be getting either a repaired kart for whatever the issue is, or a brand new kart. Now, while a brand new kart may sound good, it will have cold tyres, it'll have a slightly cold engine, and usually 1 lap is not enough to get that kart up to temperature. So Jamie might be having a rather tough qualifying session and might be having to work up through the field come the race. There we go, a bit of drama for the penultimate round of the season. So we've had a stricken kart out on circuit as well. We can see one of the marshals pushing that kart between turn 3 and turn 2, and that's going to get pushed all the way into pit lane potentially. Thankfully for the Marshal, it is downhill from there, so it shouldn't be the worst of pushes. So Super Pole going to be getting underway shortly. We'll be starting with our D-Maxes out on circuit. Again, it'll be an out lap for them, hot lap and in lap. Then all of our D-Maxes will come into the pit lane. We'll then send out our Sodies for their out lap, hot lap and in lap before gridding up both the D-Maxes and the Sodies for their 30-minute race. The penultimate round of the championship, round number 6. All of our karts are now into the pit lane. Which means we can start to get ready to send out our D-Maxes for their qualifying session. Again, this is one of the biggest fields we've had for the Daytona Super Champs. A total of 37 karts. Absolutely packed and sold out as well. I know there were a couple of drivers who were trying to sign on, I think, earlier on today and couldn't make it. One of those potentially being Josh Davis. He was in the practice session earlier on. So we've got a few replacement karts out then, for one of those being for Jamie Tyler Gooden, who has now jumped into his kart. I think with that, we are now ready to go for Super Pole in the D-Max category. Kuba Wozniak, James Brown at the front end of the field, and then it is James Pedersen, the championship leader in the D-Max lightweight category. Now remember, even though the heavyweights and the lightweights are technically in different categories, in different classes, or categories is probably the better term for it, they do qualify amongst each other. So sometimes we see the heavyweights out-qualifying the lightweights, and, well, with the expertise and the quality of the likes of Kuba Wozniak, James Brown, we used to see it a lot from Lee Whitney. There is Lee in that white suit and the orange helmet that you can see on your screen, sitting 6th in the train of karts, just behind Ian Riley and in front of Dom Balasatis. Maybe we'll be seeing heavyweights out-qualifying the lights once again. Another driver I do want to keep my eyes out on is Sebastian Musica, who has been, again, I say it every round, but has been improving all year long. And we'll see whether he can continue to improve and get towards the sharp end of the heavyweight field. Joe Fletcher as well in the D-Max lightweight class. His first season in the more powerful two-stroke D-Maxes. And he has been slowly acclimatizing to these karts and getting better and better. Can he get in amongst the pack, the likes of Ethan Pritchard, Dom Balasaitis, Jamie Tyler-Gooden, James Bettison, of course. And with that, our D-Maxes start to leave the pit lane. Kuba Wozniak and James Brown at the front of the field. Now, let's not forget, with us having one of the biggest fields that we've had, there is always the risk that the front runners in the D-Max class will catch up to the last people out of the pit lane for their hot lap. We've got about 15 or so D-Maxes, and, well, just over a minute a lap. So you're looking at a maximum of about 4 or so seconds between every car. If the gaps get any longer than that, when I think some of our D-Maxes finish their hot laps, they run the risk of catching up to the back end of the D-Max train, starting their first hot laps. And our final D-Max leaves the pit lane. And I believe Kuba Wozniak and James Brown are making their way out of turn 8 and up the hill. And here they are. I think James Brown is trying to get as close as possible, really, to Kuba Wozniak so that he can get a bit of a tow. He's got someone to chase. That does mean, though, he runs the risk. If Kuba Wozniak makes a mistake, James Brown is also going to lose time as a result. But then again, this is Kuba Wozniak and James Brown we're talking about. Unlikely to see a mistake from either of them as they start their qualifying hot lap, their one and only lap that they will get in this qualifying session. Through turn 4 and down into turn 5, double apex corner, but to be honest, you only really want to get the first apex, and then it's slowly getting on the power, letting the kart out all the way through the corner into then the carousel of turn 6, which we can't see. We can just see the karts popping back up into view on corner exit. Turn 7, fast, quick dab on the brakes, back on the power, loads of room on exit, a nice curb that you can get your outside wheels on, and then it's down the hill towards turn 8, downhill braking, one of the slowest corners on the circuit and the biggest straight on corner exit. So important to get on the power early and get a good run out of turn 8 into turn 9. That little flick of the D-Maxes and then hot onto the brakes into turn 10. Slowest corner on the circuit. Back onto the power as you make your way through turn 11. Tends to be a wider line. Is slightly better than a tighter line. And across the line then, what is it going to be for Kuba Wozniak? A 106.9. Can James Brown beat it? He cannot. It's a 107.1. And James Bettison to the top of the times with a 106.1. Nathan James goes up into P2 with a 106.5. Ian Riley in P3, but is in provisional pole for the heavyweight class with a 106.7. Lee Whitney can only manage a 107.4. Dom Balasaitis down in P4 overall with practically the identical time to Ian Riley, just 1/100th of a second slower. Barry Morris in P6. Sebastian Musica up into P8. Out-qualifies Lee Whitney. Jamie Tyler-Gooden on that slightly cold kart can only manage P6 with a 107.0. 1/10th shy of Kuba Wozniak, but it is James Bettison who is on for pole. Ethan Pritchard comes over the line. What can he do? It's only P9. A 107.2 and narrowly ahead of Justin Elliott down in P10. Joe Fletcher, Conor McNamara in 13th and 14th. Then comes Daniel Crawley, Ashley Mason-King, Keane Brady, Ash Chivers, Michael Bowles, Toby Ward, and Mark Frendo. But it is James Bettison and Nathan James on the front row of the grid. Ian Riley, the only heavyweight on the front two rows, lining up alongside Dom Balasaitis in P4. But James Bettison looks to be on absolute fire for the final round, or for the penultimate round of the Daytona Milton Keynes Super Champs. And remember, for James Bettison, if he can pull 2 points clear of Jamie Tyler-Gooden today, well, if he pulls 2 points clear with a race win, he wins the championship. If he can pull 3 points ahead without a race win today, he wins the championship. So a fast lap and a race win guarantees James Pedersen the championship today. And while he's done everything he can in qualifying with a pole, and his title rival, Jamie-Tyler Gooden, down in P6, P4 in category. And Jamie-Tyler Gooden will have to be wary of Barry Morris as well. And with that now, our Sodis are being allowed out onto circuit, being led by Charlie Fenton. They're just waiting for our final 5 or 6 drivers to exit pit lane. There goes Aidan Miller out onto circuit. So D-Max quali done. We wait for the Sodis and then we'll be gridding up for our half-an-hour race, which should start in about 10 minutes' time. So here comes Charlie Fenton then into the final corner to begin his one and only qualifying lap. The effective championship leader of the Sodi SR5 Heavyweight Championship. And through turn 1 he goes. Turn 2. I'm actually very surprised that Charlie braked into turn 2. I'm pretty sure that corner is meant to be flat in the Sodi karts, but maybe a bit tentative then from Charlie Fenton. We'll see what the likes of Harry Asher, Callum Poulter do. Here comes Matthew Glazebrook heading into turn 2. Matthew Glazebrook, no brakes into the corner. Harry Asher having a bit of a weave into turn 2. I don't think that's going to help him on his qualifying lap. Callum Poulter, little dab on the brakes into turn 2. Let's see what Luke Power does. Does he go onto the brakes? Oh, very, very, very light tap on the brakes into corner. Here comes Aidan Miller. Will he jump onto the brakes? No, Aidan Miller flat into the corner, or maybe potentially a lift. Can't really tell if the karts are going flat out or having a little lift into turn 2. These Sodis do have some lights on the back of the kart, so whenever the drivers tap the brakes or press the brakes, they do light up, similar to a normal car. Here comes Charlie Fenton then, around the final corner. And what will this lap time be then for Charlie Fenton? As he crosses the line, it's a 1:17.893. Adam Green crosses the line, a 1:18.088 for Adam. And was that Javen Addy who then crossed the line? It was indeed a 1:19.847, so 2 seconds separating our top 3 for now. Matthew Glazebrook crosses the line. It's only good enough for P2, a 1:17.908. Harry Asher, P3 with a 1:17.95. Callum Poulter, though, smashes everyone's lap times with a 1:16.698, but we saw this in practice. It was Callum Poulter and it was Luke Power at the sharp end of the field. What could Luke Power do? It's only a 1:18.1. I think Luke Power caught some traffic because he's in amongst a few other drivers. So Luke Power has been caught out by traffic and has only been able to qualify in P6. Callum Poulter then on pole with Charlie Fenton alongside, over a second between Callum Poulter and Charlie Fenton. Matthew Glazebrook, Harry Asher on row 2. From Charlie Fenton to Harry Asher, 0.07 of a second. Adam Green is in 5th with a 1:18.0. Then it's Luke Power with a 1:18.1, followed by James King, Aidan Miller, Hamish Easoner, Javen Addy, Dylan Jenkins, Kart 7, which, if I just check my notes on who that is Harley Turner. Then comes Adam Clark, Joseph Walker, Callum Dowling, and Tadeusz. And I'm not going to try to pronounce that surname because I'm going to get that horribly, horribly wrong. So in come our Sodis into pit lane. So with that, we're just going to wait to get all of these Sodis into the pit lane and then get our drivers back into their karts and grid them up for our 30-minute race, round 6. I keep saying round 5, round 6 of the championship. And the penultimate round of the 7-round summer championship here at Daytona Milton Keynes. And it is a very hot day, and all of our drivers are being given a quick 2-minute break between qualifying and the race to grab a quick drink of water, although I'm sure they'll make it a very long drink of water. Alright everyone, D-Maxes have been fired up and are making their way to the end of pit lane, so we will be getting them out onto circuit and lining them up on the approach into turn 10 very shortly. Then after that we can get our Sodis lined up on the approach into turn 9 and we can get this race underway. Should be about 6 or so minutes away from race start at this point. And our carts are making their way out of pit lane. So we should have our D-Maxes gridded up very shortly. And we have had some developments from race control, apparently. Well, James Brown has had a bit of a track limits infringement, so he's going to be starting from the very back of the field. And that is, well, disaster for James Brown, because he would have otherwise been starting in P8, just 3 places behind his championship rival, Kuba Wozniak. And I can see him on the approach into turn 9. Very confused as to why he isn't gridding up where he had qualified. And this is not the start James Brown would have wanted for his penultimate round of the championship, around where he could be out of contention for that top spot in the championship. Ian Riley, though, is in very good stead, starting on pole. Needs Kuba Wozniak to finish, well, ideally down in 3rd, but the question is, who will beat Kuba Wozniak if not James Brown? And don't forget, James Brown leading this championship as well. But if Ian Riley can pick up a total of 51 points, he can really bring down his championship deficit and pull himself back into contention. Needs the likes of Justin Elliott to have a solid race. And the same as well for Lee Whitney. No Barry Morris in the heavyweight class. He's racing in the lightweights. Starting on the 4th row of the grid alongside Ethan Pritchard. Jamie Tyler-Gooden will be a driver to watch out for. Remember, he did qualifying in a cold kart, so expect a little bit more pace from Jamie compared to what he did in qualifying. And even if he only had a couple more tenths, he would be starting this race from in P3. But James Pedersen from the very front of the field will be looking to just check out. We know, though, Nathan James is an incredibly quick driver here at Daytona Milton Keynes, former D-Max lightweight champion. And while he hasn't been racing in the previous rounds of the season, we know that he's going to be up to speed very quickly and be posing a threat for James Pedersen. And the longer those two battle between themselves, the better it is for the likes of Dom Balasaitis, Jamie Tyler-Gooden, Barry Morris, Ethan Pritchard as well, to be able to close in and give us an absolutely fascinating 6-way battle for the D-Max lightweight class race win. So our D-Maxes are now all gridded up. You can see them on the screen if you're watching on YouTube on the approach into turn 10. And then our Sodis are going to get gridded up on the approach into turn 9. That is the long sweeping left-hander, the fastest corner on the circuit. I believe it's quicker than turn 1. I should hope. I should think so. You've got a much longer run coming into turn 9 than you do into turn 1, so the cart should be carrying a bit more speed. Maybe if you had a longer run into turn 1, they'd be about the same kind of speed through them, but you don't. So I'm pretty sure there's more speed being carried through 9 than through turn 1 in both the Sodis and the D-Maxes. Sodis might have reached top speed by turn 1, but I think they have a bit more acceleration to go. That being said, I've never actually driven the Sodi karts. I've driven the old N35s, I've driven the D-Maxes. I think I need to jump into one of these Sodis at some point. So our Sodis have been gridded up and we are pretty much ready then to get underway with the racing, the penultimate round of the Daytona Milton Keynes Super Champs, round number 6. And potentially we could be seeing our Sodi lightweight champion crowned, our D-Max lightweight champion crowned, and potentially our D-Max heavyweight champion crowned as well. Both Kuba Wozniak and James Brown could be winning the championship today. However, Kuba Wozniak would have to take a total of 6 points out of James Brown if he was to win the championship. As they are currently ordered from qualifying, Kuba Wozniak would win the championship, but James Brown is starting from the back after being excluded from qualifying. Our D-Maxes are fired up and we are ready to get underway. James Betterson, Nathan James, front row of the grid. We've seen these two battling between themselves many times over the seasons, but this time it is James Betterson who is starting on pole, and we are underway then for our D30. A very good start then for Nathan James. He goes round the outside of James Betterson and takes the lead of the D-Max class. It's side by side between Balasaitis and Ian Riley through 2 and 3, but it is Ian Riley who drops down into P4. Ethan Pritchard has a moment with one of our other D-Max drivers and drops to the back end of the field just like he did in round 5. How is James Brown doing? He's already gained about 5 or 6 positions. So James Brown on an absolute charge as our Sodis are underway, being led by Callum Poulter. And that is Matthew Glazebrook already up the inside of Charlie Fenton into turn 2. And I believe Adam Green trying to go round the outside of 3 and up the inside into turn 4. But it is Charlie Fenton who I think has held on to P3 with Adam Green directly behind. And then it comes Callum Poulter, followed by Harry Asher side by side, I believe, with Hamish Eisner. But here is Nathan James just in front of James Betterson and Dom Balasaitis directly behind. So it is lightweights 1, 2 and 3. Cooper Wozniak up into P4. Jamie Tyler Gooden up into P5. So Ian Riley dropping from P3 all the way down to P6 in the opening lap of the race. Barry Morris right behind. Then comes Justin Elliott and Lee Whitney with James Brown only another 2 carts behind. Ethan Pritchard has a lot of work to do. He's already been able to gain 1 position. And is that Daniel Crawley right at the back end of the field? So Daniel Crawley has had an incident somewhere on that opening lap and has dropped right down to the back of the field. But it is Callum Poulter who is leading in the Sodi category ahead of Matthew Glazebrook and Charlie Fenton. And that's Luke Power going up the inside into the final corner. And surely he has made that move stick as a drag up into turn 1. But I think Luke Power has done it. There's a yellow flag out for turn 2. So Luke Power will take the position. And that is Luke Power then up into P4. And it was Luke Power going up the inside of Harry Asher into the final corner. So Adam Green behind the pair of them. Both Harry Asher and Adam Green have rather similar suits and helmets, both black. However, Adam Green does have a red set of gloves. So that's probably how I'm going to try to distinguish between the pair of them. Jamie Tyler Gooden, though, is up into P4. He's found a way through on Kuba Wozniak, and now he's trying to hunt down the leading trio to make this a four-way battle for the lead. Nathan James being the perfect cork in the bottle for Jamie Tyler Gooden to recover from his qualifying result, and that's a run for James Pedersen out of turn 5. They're side by side, heading into the carousel of turn 6. Pedersen up the inside of James, and he's made the move stick up into the lead of the race. Nathan James down into second, and Dom Balasatis now searching for a way through on the former D-Max lightweight champion. Now Surtees making their way into the final corner. Callum Poulter has himself a 2 to 3 kart lead over, or 3 kart length lead over Matthew Glazebrook, who has Charlie Fenton directly behind him. Then Luke Power surging through the field. Remember, Luke Power got caught out in qualifying, as there goes Pedersen up the inside of one of the back markers. Nathan James following through. Jamie Tyler Gooden has got a really good run. Can he go up the inside of the final corner? Has to slot in behind. And look at this, Kuba Wozniak is closing in as well. Our leading heavyweight driver wants a piece of the lightweight action. Whether he goes for a move, we'll have to see. He might just try to tuck him behind. Ian Riley not far back, and then Barry Morris has Justin Elliott and Lee Whitney directly behind him. But we're getting to the point now where our D-Maxes are going to start to lap our Sodies, and this is where things get really, really fun. Bit of a poor run for Nathan James as he navigates through one of the back markers, and that's going to give Dom Balasatis a potential attempt of an overtake. How is James Brown doing? I've forgotten to check on him in a while. One kart between himself and Lee Whitney, as here come our Sodies once more. Charlie Fenton going up the inside of Matthew Glazebrook through turn 9, but Glazebrook's going to fight back. Charlie Fenton, though, clean as you like, with a switchback out of turn 10. And now Luke Power says, thank you very much, I'll go and take the position of Matthew Glazebrook round the outside of the final corner. And Luke Power takes P3, and that is a big, big move for the championship in the Sodi lightweight category. Remember, Luke Power was 6 points behind Matthew Glazebrook coming into this round, and that's going to bring the championship deficit down to 5 points, as Ian Riley has found a way through on Kuba Wozniak. So Ian Riley has retaken the lead of the D-Max heavyweight class. James Pedersen has been able to pull a few kart lengths ahead of Nathan James, who is in turn a few kart lengths ahead of Dom Balasatis, but he has his former Junior Sprint League competitor of Jamie Tyler Gooden directly behind him as they make their way through the carousel of turn 6, and now back up the hill into 7, and now down the hill, the descent towards the lowest point of the circuit, the hairpin of turn 8. A lot of action then already in the opening few laps for round 6, a penultimate round of the D-Max Championship. And waved through then are the D-Max drivers, and Jamie Tyler Gooden's on the outside of turn 9. He can't follow Dom Balasatis through on Luke Power and Charlie Fenton, and that's going to give Dom Balasatis a little break as our leading Sodies are lapped for the first time by our D-Maxes that run on average about 10 seconds a lap quicker than the Sodi karts. Ian Riley a little bit sideways out of turn 1. Kuba Wozniak slots directly behind Riley then through the chicane of turn 2 and 3. This is the battle for the D-Max heavyweight class lead. Ian Riley started in front of Kuba Wozniak. Wozniak was ahead of Riley at the end of lap 1, and now Riley has fought back and retaken the lead of the class. James Brown has Ethan Pritchard directly behind him. Remember, Ethan Pritchard was at the very back of the field after turn 2 on the opening lap, involved in an incident into the chicane, has fought back really well, and now has gone up the inside of James Brown through turn 7. Now, if the leading group in the D-Max class continue to battle, that could give an opportunity for Ethan Pritchard to close in. But now that James Pedersen has taken the lead of the D-Max class, he is absolutely checking out at the front of the field. Nathan James running in second. Then comes Dom Balasatis and Jamie Tyler Gooden to complete the top 4. And then we have our heavyweights duking it out. Ian Riley, Kuba Wozniak. Then comes Lee Whitney and Justin Elliott, followed by Barry Morris. As things stand, I think Kuba Wozniak might just win the championship. Might need to be able to make this move, though, on Ian Riley. Might have to pick up a fastest lap as well, but it is going to be nip and tuck. Either way, he'll be in very, very good stead heading into the final round of the season as Lee Whitney and Justin Elliott are battling through turn 5. That's going to allow Barry Morris to close in. Barry Morris in a different weight category, but that won't be dissuading Barry from battling with Justin Elliott and Lee Whitney as they make their way through 7 and down the hill towards turn 8. Now, James Pedersen, Nathan James still separated by a couple of car lengths, and Nathan James catches the back marker right at the wrong point, puts his hand up in frustration, but, well, I think that's just Nathan James. He anticipated the back markers doing something, they did something different, and it's as easy as that to lose a whole bunch of time, and now have Dom Balasatis directly behind him. If I was Dom in this situation, I'd probably be pushing Nathan James along to try to close back in onto James Pedersen, because if the pair battle, that's really going to allow James Pedersen to pull away at the front end of the field. Meanwhile, Ethan Pritchard still ahead of James Brown, who has Sebastian Musica directly behind him, as Pritchard continues to try to navigate his way through the field and gain more and more positions. I believe he's right behind Joe Fletcher right now as they go round the outside of a couple of our N35, around the outside of a couple of our Sodis. So I just want to take a look then at our lap times for our leaders. James Pedersen last time round 105.9. Nathan James 106.4, but he did catch traffic. Dom Balasatis 105.9. Jamie Tyler Gooden 106.0. So the leading four, there is very little to separate them. And is that a mistake this time round then for James Pedersen? Because Nathan James is directly behind him as they come over the line. James Pedersen, what was that lap time? It was only a 107.5. So he's dropped 1.5 seconds nearly to Nathan James and Dom Balasatis, who have put in 106.1s. It was a 106.0 for Jamie Tyler Gooden on the last lap. He was the fastest of the quartet. Race on once again. Here is Callum Poulter making his way through turn 10, leading in the Sodi category. And then it's Charlie Fenton in the heavyweight class, followed by Luke Power, Matthew Glazebrook. And that's Harry Asher going for a move on Matthew Glazebrook into the final corner. It's a drag out of turn 11, heading towards turn 1. But Matthew Glazebrook with a wider line through the final corner, gets the drive and gets the position. Luke Power battling with Charlie Fenton. He's on the outside into turn 4, trying to look for the switchback. He wants to hunt down Callum Poulter. Luke Power has been getting quicker and quicker as this season has progressed, and is, looking at his fastest that he's ever been. Now, so Charlie Fenton has a little look, realises that Luke Power is not in the same weight class as him, and allows Luke Power through. And just going to try to slot in behind him as James Pedersen has pulled out a second to Nathan James on this last lap. And that is Dom Balasatis now going for a move up the inside of Nathan James into turn 4. Unable to make the move stick, has to slot in behind, and that's going to just play into the hands of James Pedersen at the front end of this field. Remember, if things finish as they are, James Pedersen will be your D-Max lightweight champion. Luke Power navigating his way through on one of the back markers has... that's an incident. And Charlie Fenton, I think he's going to say that the back marker turned across him. And I think Charlie Fenton would be right in that regard. I don't think Fenton spun the back marker around, but we'll leave that one to the stewards to decide. They're the ones who have the camera footage as Harry Ashett's up the inside of Matthew Glazebrook. Glazebrook hanging around the outside of turn 2. Cracking stuff. But Harry Asher goes for the switchback now on the outside into turn 4. But Matthew Glazebrook holds on to the position. This is such an important battle between these two for P3 in the lightweight category, because if Matthew Glazebrook finishes in P4, Luke Power will be well and truly back into championship contention. Barry Morris is at the front now of this little train of D-Max carts in front of Justin Elliott and Lee Whitney, and then comes Joe Fletcher and Ethan Pritchard. As Lee Whitney trying to get alongside Justin Elliott into 5, no luck this time round, and James Brown is directly behind this group of carts and has dragged Sebastian Musica along with him. Callum Poulter having a look over his shoulder heading into the final corner, and there is absolutely no one behind him. Luke Power about nearly 10 seconds back at this point. Then is Charlie Fenton. Matthew Glazebrook still under pressure from Harry Asher. Harry Asher having one of his strongest rounds of the season. I think his hands down Harry Asher's best round this season. Really, really impressive drive this from Harry Asher. And then it is, I believe, Aiden Miller. And then Adam Green. James Pedersen getting caught in a little bit of traffic, having to go around the outside of turn 2 and turn 4. But does still have a healthy gap to Nathan James. And then, as per usual, it is Dom Balasaitis and Jamie Tyler Gooden directly behind the former D-Max champion. We only have 18 minutes remaining in the race. We're almost halfway through our penultimate round of the season. And that's Ethan Pritchard trying to go up the inside of Lee Whitney through turn 7. Does he get the drive and corner exit? It's going to be close between the pair of them heading down into turn 8. Remember, a race win here for James Pedersen will pretty much hand him the championship. He needs to be 5 points ahead of Jamie Tyler Gooden. Actually, he needs to be 6, and he's currently 2, so he needs to gain 4 points. And currently, he is on to do that. Who currently has the best lap time? James Pedersen, a 1:05.4. The only other driver to get into the 105s is Dom Balasaitis with a 1:05.9. So James Pedersen absolutely flying right now, and pretty much has one hand on the championship as things currently stand. Yellow flag out in turn 1. So our marshals are just pulling the tyre barrier on exit back into place. Luke Power is trying to hunt down Callum Poulter currently. Last time round for Callum Poulter, a 1:08.5. Luke Power, a 1:07.0. Sorry, a 1:06.8. So Luke Power is slowly closing in. Wait, Callum Poulter. What's happened to Callum Poulter? Callum Poulter has dropped right down the field. He has had a 1:35. So Callum Poulter has dropped about 16 seconds, which might be perfect news for Luke Power to pick up his second race win of the season and take, well, 2 points out of Matthew Glazebrook's championship lead and bring that gap down to just 4 points into the final round of the season. What has happened to Jamie Tyler Gooden? Because Jamie Tyler Gooden has also lost a whole bunch of time. He's fallen behind now Ian Riley and Kuba Wozniak. And this is going to be so frustrating for Jamie Tyler Gooden because he'll know that he is going to lose the championship as things stand. And the frustration does start to get to you is where you start to make more and more reckless moves as you become desperate in an attempt to try to gain positions. It does get past Kuba Wozniak, using the back marker to fantastic effect. Sebastian Musica has passed James Brown, so Sebastian Musica is on an absolute flyer right now. What is the current order in the heavyweight class then for the D-Maxes? Ian Riley and Kuba Wozniak at the very front. Then it is Justin Elliott, Lee Whitney, and Sebastian Musica. So Sebastian Musica currently running in P5, but is only 3 seconds down on Lee Whitney, and potentially Sebastian Musica could be in for his first ever D-Max heavyweight podium. And Dom Balasaitis has finally found a way through on Nathan James, and he's saying, look, let's work together. We can still catch James Pedersen, who has really pulled away at the front of the field. He's got about, 5 seconds now as a lead over Dom Balasaitis. Last time round, Dom Balasaitis 1:06.7, James Pedersen 1:05.8. So James Pedersen lapping consistently in the high 105s. Don Balasaitis' fastest lap time of the race of 105.9. 4.4 seconds the gap at the front of the field. 13 minutes to go, which is about 11 laps. As long as James Pedersen just puts in consistent laps at this point, he has this race win and the championship done and dusted. Luke Power putting in a low 1 minute 17. Same for Charlie Fenton and Matthew Glazebrook, and indeed Harry Asher. Harry Asher currently running P3 in the lightweight class. I believe this would be Harry's first Super Championship podium. I need to have a look to see where Callum Poulter is relative to Harry Asher out on circuit. As James Brown has got back past Sebastian Musica. So those two are having a fun little scrap between the pair of them. Now, where is Harry Asher and Callum Poulter? Here is Luke Power making his way through turn 9 and down into turn 10. In the black suit with the blue and yellow, I believe it's a Zappa helmet. And here is Harry Asher right behind Matthew Glazebrook. And there is Callum Poulter. So I think we might be in for a bit of a stadium finish as Harry Asher, incredibly opportunistic, goes up the inside of Matthew Glazebrook, makes the move stick as well. So Harry Asher up into second place. And this is perfect news for Luke Power, who now is not going to gain 2 points over Matthew Glazebrook, is going to gain 3 and bring that championship gap down to just 3 points into the final round. And if, as well, Luke Power can get Callum Poulter in between himself and Matthew Glazebrook, the championship is going to be separated by just 2 points into the final round of the season, which will be incredibly, incredibly close. Callum Poulter, though, last time round, new fastest lap of the Saudi category, a 106.1, almost into the 105s. Sebastian Musica is right on the back of James Brown. I thought for a second he might go up the inside into turn 2, backs out of the move, and as a result loses about 3 kart lengths to James Brown in the process. Here is Luke Power going through turn 9 and into turn 10. Then comes Charlie Fenton, Harry Asher, Matthew Glazebrook. And there is Callum Poulter, who qualified on pole. He was lapping super quickly, but he's been involved in some form of an incident and has dropped right down the field. He's had a little look over to the start-finish line. He can see exactly where Luke Power is. He knows who he wants to hunt down. I don't even think he's thinking about finishing this race in second. He wants to go for the race win with 11 minutes left. That's about 9 laps for the Saudi class. Last time round, Callum Poulter, 107.7. Luke Power, 107.3. So actually losing a bit of time was Callum Poulter and losing time on the likes of Harry Asher, Matthew Glazebrook as well. So currently, Ian Riley has the fastest lap of the D-Max heavyweight class of 106.2. Kuba Wozniak with a 106.4. If Kuba Wozniak can pick up the fastest lap, I think Kuba may potentially take the championship today. But Ian Riley is absolutely flying right now, closing in onto Callum Poulter. And up the inside he goes into the final corner. Don Balasaitis, I think, is back behind Nathan James, and Nathan James has fought his way back up into second. Now, James Pedersen is only about a second up the road, so either mistake from James Pedersen, a 1 minute 11.9 last time around. He's lost 3.5 seconds to Nathan James and Don Balasaitis on that last lap. And less than a second now separating your leading two. And it is game on once again at the front end of the field. Wide then from Nathan James, able to cover off Don Balasaitis into turn 10 just about in time. So here is Luke Power heading through turn number 10. And just behind Luke Power is Charlie Fenton, and then it's Matthew Glazebrook and Harry Asher. Sorry, Harry Asher is still ahead of Charlie Fenton, but Luke Power has been reeled in. Where is Callum Poulter in all of this? He's making his way through turn 1. If Callum Poulter can put in some really quick laps, he's going to be back into the battle for the race lead. Luke Power, he really needs this race win if he wants to get back into the championship fight. Otherwise, we might be seeing potentially Matthew Glazebrook winning the championship today. Remember, Matthew Glazebrook essentially just needs to finish in front of Luke Power, and he wins the championship. If he finishes one position behind Luke Power and Luke Power doesn't win, Matthew Glazebrook also wins the championship. And currently, Luke Power has Harry Asher between himself and his championship rival, Matthew Glazebrook. James Pedersen has been able to pull back to a second ahead now of Nathan James and Don Balasaitis. And here is Luke Power with Harry Asher right behind him. Harry Asher has been able to find a way through on Charlie Fenton. And, well, I was saying before, well, Harry Asher would be in for his best ever result if he could take a podium. But he's currently fighting for the race win. Through turn 1 we go. Ethan Pritchard directly behind Harry Asher. Up the inside on corner exit he goes. And Callum Poulter is definitely closer to Matthew Glazebrook this time round than he was last time. What does Harry Asher have under his belt? We know Harry Asher was incredibly quick in the Junior Sprint League. He's been slowly getting up to pace with the adults as Lee Whitney goes up the inside through turn 5. That's going to give Charlie Fenton an opportunity to go up the inside of Harry Asher now into the carousel. Is exactly what Harry Asher didn't need, but it is what Luke Power would have wanted. Luke Power still leading Harry Asher. Charlie Fenton side by side on the exit of turn 7 as they head out of view and down into turn 8. And we wait for them to come back into view. Here is Luke Power, and it is Charlie Fenton back ahead of Harry Asher. Then comes Matthew Glazebrook, and look at Callum Poulter closing in every single lap. Last time round, Callum Poulter, how much time did he gain? Well, he gained over a second to the likes of Charlie Fenton and Matthew Glazebrook. He gained 1.3 seconds to Luke Power. This time round, what does Luke Power do? It's a 1:17.4 for Luke Power. For Callum Poulter, we wait for the times to update. It's a 1:17.2, so only a few tenths gained by Callum Poulter this time round, but he is gaining. That's a critical thing. Callum Poulter is closing in to the front of this Sodi category, and Charlie Fenton, hats off to him in the heavyweight class, fighting amongst our lightweight drivers, as Nathan James is just a couple of seconds, not even a couple of seconds behind James Pedersen. Yeah. So I have been given unfortunate news for any Jamie Tyler Gooden fans out there. A 3-position penalty for Jamie Tyler Gooden for taking out one of the Sodi drivers while lapping, which essentially means James Pedersen is going to be your D-Max lightweight champion for the first time. Disaster then for Jamie Tyler Gooden. And that might also mean that our championship fight for second between Don Balasaitis and Jamie Tyler Gooden, and indeed Ethan Pritchard, is going to be getting very, very feisty come the final round of the season. Luke Power having a look over his shoulder. He'll see Charlie Fenton. Callum Poulter, what has he done last time round? It's a 1:06.3 for Callum Poulter. He takes 7 tenths out of Luke Power on the last lap, and we don't have long left. 4 minutes remaining. It's about 3 or so laps. Luke Power just needs to get his head down. Matthew Glazebrook needs to find a way through on Harry Asher. He gets a good run out of turn 5, but he can't pull alongside into turn 6. And Kuba Wozniak is on the back of Ian Riley once again. So Kuba Wozniak, if he can take this position from Ian Riley, That's going to be another 2 points going towards his championship tally. And with Ian Riley in second, who is currently running in third and fourth in the heavyweight class, Justin Elliott, Lee Whitney, Sebastian Musick ahead of James Brown. I think Kuba Wozniak would win the championship if he can find a way through on Ian Riley in the dying moments of the race. Kuba Wozniak won't know how far down the field James Brown is, but he'll know that a race win will be so important for him. And that's Callum Poulter. Callum Poulter is past Harry Asher. So Callum Poulter has been able to take one lightweight on this lap. Next up for him is Matthew Glazebrook. He's already right on the back of Glazebrook. He's looking to the outside. He's looking for the switchback. Callum Poulter, what a drive up the inside of turn 2, round the outside of turn 3. Callum Poulter now on the inside into turn 4, retakes second place in the Saudi lightweight class, and that's going to allow Harry Asher back up into the fight with Matthew Glazebrook. So Callum Poulter up into second place. Can he hunt down Luke Power for the race lead? Matthew Glazebrook is going to be Callum Poulter's biggest supporter right now. He did try to battle with Callum Poulter, and maybe that's a decision that Matthew Glazebrook might regret come the end of the race, depending on how close Callum Poulter is to the back of Luke Power. But Luke Power looking to make it 2 race wins from 2. Just over 2 minutes remaining. Over a second between your race leaders, James Pedersen and Nathan James. A further 2 seconds to Dom Balasaitis. But James Pedersen won't really care too much. He is going to be taking the race win and the championship as well as things currently stand. Pedersen then goes up the inside of the Saudi class leader, Luke Power, lapping him for what should be the final time. And here is Callum Poulter directly behind Charlie Fenton as they head through the chicane. Can Luke Power do it into turn 4? Fenton goes defensive. Power looks for the switchback coming out of turn 4. He's going to pull alongside Charlie Fenton, heading down into turn 5, and he's going to make it work as well. So Callum Poulter up into second overall. They're still almost side by side on corner exit, but Callum Poulter has got the job done, and he's only going to have 2 laps now to hunt down Luke Power, who is, well, about a couple of seconds up the road. This is going to be really difficult for Callum Poulter, and he might just be lacking a couple of minutes to make this one work. James Brown has fallen about 5 or so seconds behind Sebastian Musick, who is hunting down Lee Whitney at a vast rate of knots. Sebastian Musick last time round a 107.0, taking 1.5 seconds out of Lee Whitney on that particular occasion. Kuba Wozniak has fallen to about a second behind Ian Riley. Just trying to see where they are. And there goes Jamie Tyler Gooden up the inside of Ian Riley into the final corner. Matthew Glazebrook, Harry Asher directly behind them as Kuba Wozniak follows Tyler Gooden through. We are almost on to the last lap of the race. Not long left then for Callum Poulter. I'm trying to see if I can spot Callum Poulter out on circuit. There they are. They're heading into turn 5. You know what? Callum Poulter might just about be able to do this. This is one of the best drives I've seen in the Saudi lightweight class. And Callum Poulter in a late charge. Luke Power is looking over his shoulder, and he is seeing Callum Poulter only a second behind him. And this is where he's going to be starting to feel a lot of pressure. The checkered flag then is out for James Pedersen, who will be taking the race win and taking the championship as well. And it is just a bit too late then for Callum Poulter. But actually, he's right behind Luke Power. Heading into the final corner. Can Callum Poulter do it? Luke Power is going to go defensive. Poulter looks for the switchback. Callum Poulter's done it! Out of the final corner. What a move from Callum Poulter to take the race win on the final lap of the race. What a charge from Callum Poulter. And Luke Power might very well regret that one massively come the end of the championship. But it is Callum Poulter who takes the race win from Luke Power. Matthew Glazebrook comes home in P3. And I believe Matthew Glazebrook with that P3 will potentially, I say potentially, let me quickly check. Matthew Glazebrook is going to be your Saudi lightweight champion. So James Pedersen is your D-Max lightweight champion, and Matthew Glazebrook is your Saudi lightweight champion. So to confirm the results, James Pedersen then wins in the D-Max category from Dom Balasaitis and Nathan James. So Dom Balasaitis at the very end, pipping Nathan James for second. Jamie Tyler Gooden comes home in P4, but has a 3-place penalty. Ian Riley wins in the heavyweight class from Kuba Wozniak. Then comes Barry Morris. Justin Elliott will take P3 in the heavyweight class. Then comes Ethan Pritchard, Joseph Fletcher, Lee Whitney. A fantastic drive from Sebastian Musica to take P12. James Brown, well, that will be a race to forget for James Brown, who I think is still just about in the championship fight. Conor McNamara, Ashley Mason-King, Daniel Crawley, Keane Brady, Ash Chivers, Michael Bowles, and Mark Frendo complete the D-Max field. Callum Poulter wins in the Saudi class from Luke Power. Charlie Fenton, a fantastic drive in the heavyweight class to take the win. Then comes Matthew Glazebrook and Harry Asher, so close to getting his first ever Super Champs podium. A fantastic drive from Harry, just shy at the end. Aidan Miller will take second in the heavyweight class. Then comes Adam Green, the anonymouses of 18 and 7. Cart 18 is James King, and Cart 7 is Harley Turner. Then it's Dylan Jenkins, Hamish Easoner, Javen Addy, Joseph Walker, Adam Clark, Callum Dowling, and Tadeusz Cher. Wow. That was an absolutely thrilling end to our D-Max and Saudi races. Again, what a drive from Callum Poulter. Hands down, my driver of the day. That was absolutely impeccable to watch from Callum. Luke Power tried to go defensive into the final corner. Callum Poulter just had him read like a book. But that was absolutely thrilling. And with that, we are going to be signing out of the stream. And for those of you who are watching trackside here at Daytona Milton Keynes, I'll be seeing you guys up in the pavilion for presentations shortly. So again, to those people tuning in on YouTube, thank you very much for watching. And we'll see you for in-carts. Actually, not in-carts next week. We'll see you for the final round of the Daytona Super Champs in 2 weeks' time, where we'll be having a heat format. Thanks for watching.